The galaxy had known silence before, but never like this. Entire star systems seemed to hold their breath, as if the void itself sensed something approaching. Across the outer colonies of alien empires, sensors flickered. Beacons lit up. Strange signals moved through the darkness of space, too structured to be natural, too powerful to be ignored. At first, no one believed it. The readings made no sense. Energy levels beyond anything their scientists could measure. Disturbances spreading across light years, as though something massive was pushing against the very fabric of the void. In the grand chambers of alien councils, leaders argued. Some claimed it was a mistake. Others whispered that an ancient weapon had awoken. The most fearful ones said it was something worse. Then came the shadow. In a quiet star system on the edge of known space, a merchant convoy was the first to see it. They were used to pirates and raiders, but nothing could prepare them for what their senses captured. At first, the crew thought it was a drifting asteroid. It moved too slow, too steady to be a warship. But as their ships drew closer, the truth became clear. A shape emerged from the darkness, metallic, colossal. Its hull stretched longer than any alien battleship ever constructed. It was not elegant like the curved cruisers of the Eldari, nor fragile like the swarm hives of the Vaith. It was cold, angular, forged with a purpose no one could mistake. It was a warship. The convoy fled, broadcasting warnings into the void. Those messages raced faster than light, spreading panic across trade networks and defense channels. Worlds that had never agreed on anything before suddenly shared one voice. Something is coming. Soon, the great empires noticed. Their fleets gathered, but even the bravest commanders hesitated. When the mysterious vessel finally crossed into controlled space, it did not announce itself. It did not send greetings. It did not demand surrender. It simply arrived, casting its shadow over entire planets as it drifted silently, as though daring anyone to stop it. The alien council of Zython Prime was the first to react. Dozens of species filled the massive hall, voices echoing in fear and anger. "This is no natural construct," one ambassador hissed, his scaled hands trembling. "It moves with intent. It must belong to the old machines," another declared. "Perhaps the builders who vanished long before our time." A third, more cautious, whispered words that silenced the hall. "What if it belongs to the lost species? What if it belongs to humanity?" For centuries, the name had been little more than a rumor. Stories told in shadows, warnings passed down through alien archives. Humanity had once walked the stars long ago, before vanishing into the dark. Most thought they had perished. Others believed they had been destroyed by stronger races. A few, the wisest and most fearful, warned that they had not died at all. They had been waiting. Now, staring at the images of the massive ship, those whispers no longer seemed like fantasy. The warship moved closer to inhabited space, ignoring warnings and patrols. Smaller vessels that tried to approach were forced back by waves of interference, their systems shutting down as if swatted aside by an invisible hand. Still, the ship did not fire. It did not need to. Its silence was more terrifying than any weapon. On the bridge of a Cyrith destroyer, Commander Vakril watched the giant appear on his tactical display. His officers looked to him for orders, but he had none. His voice was quiet, steady, though his heart pounded with fear. "That is no ordinary enemy," he said. "That is a message written in steel." The destroyer followed the warship at a safe distance, scanning its hull. Strange markings lined its surface, letters from a language most of the galaxy had forgotten. But the computer translated them. Two words appeared, clear and simple. "United Earth." The crew fell silent. No one dared to speak. The legends were true. News spread like wildfire. On mining colonies, workers abandoned their stations to watch the skies. In noble palaces, rulers trembled, demanding answers from their generals. Pirates, raiders, and smugglers who once mocked the empires now whispered in fear, for even they knew the old stories of the humans. And still, the warship advanced. It moved slowly, deliberately, crossing into systems one after another. It never attacked, but its presence crushed morale and shattered courage. Armies that had stood for centuries suddenly felt small, powerless. The galaxy was not afraid because it had been attacked. It was afraid because it understood. This was only the beginning. When the warship entered the stars, the galaxy realized a truth it had long forgotten. Humanity had not vanished. Humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had returned, and with them, they brought something far greater than weapons or armies. They brought fear. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the first word, the first command, the first strike. But the ship remained silent, drifting like a shadow across the void. Every alien who looked upon it felt the same cold thought echoing in their minds. If this is only one ship, how many more are waiting in the dark? The council chambers, the command bridges, the hidden fortresses of empires, all were filled with the same quiet terror. The arrival of the warship was not just an event, it was a warning, a promise, and for the first time in living memory, the galaxy truly understood what it meant. To fear humanity, the galaxy had faced invaders before. Armies had marched from one end of the stars to the other. Empires had risen, fallen, and rebuilt themselves. But nothing compared to this. The warship of humanity was not a fleet, not an armada. It was just one ship, and yet it was enough to paralyze an entire galaxy. For weeks, the massive vessel drifted silently across alien space. Wherever it went, trade routes shut down. Patrols scattered. Worlds turned off their beacons, afraid of being noticed. Yet still the ship did not fire. It did not raid or conquer. It only moved forward, slow and steady, as if it had all the time in the universe. The waiting was unbearable. On the world of Orath, the leaders of 7 alien empires gathered. Their council chamber, carved from crystal and steel, had never seen so much fear in one place. A tall insectoid admiral slammed his claws against the table. It has entered the Hellar system. That is less than 3 jumps from my colonies. If we do nothing, it will sit above my homeworld like a sword. A reptilian lord hissed in return. Then strike it down. Send your fleets. You boast of your warriors. Prove their strength. The insectoid admiral's wings trembled. He did not answer, because deep inside he knew the truth. His fleets would be broken, a smaller voice spoke, trembling but firm. It belonged to an old scholar of the Elari, a species known for memory and history. You do not understand. To fight them is not war. It is suicide. I have read the old records. I have studied the forgotten archives. Humanity does not waste movement. If their ship is here, it is because they want us to see it, to fear it. The chamber went silent. On the edges of the galaxy, not all shared this fear. Some believed courage could still break the silence. The Teyrak Dominion, proud and reckless, sent a fleet of 50 warships to confront the human vessel. Their broadcasts filled the stars, arrogant and loud. "Leave our territory," the Teyrak commander roared into the void, "or we will tear your relic apart and scatter your ashes across the stars." The human warship did not answer. It only continued its slow drift. The Teyrak ships formed a wall in front of it, weapons charged, energy burning brighter than suns. Every alien channel carried the feed, waiting for the strike. For the first time, the galaxy would see the humans respond, and then it happened. The warship moved. Not fast, not in rage. Just a slow turning of its colossal hull, like a predator finally opening its eyes. Its weapons unfolded, silent, black shapes gliding out from armored bays. The galaxy held its breath. The Teyrak commander fired first. Beams of energy and torpedoes streaked across the void, bright enough to blind senses. For a moment, hope burned. For a moment, the proud believed the legends might be false. Then the beams vanished. Every shot dissolved into nothing, swallowed by invisible fields that rippled around the human vessel. The warship did not dodge. It did not even slow. It let the fire wash over it like rain on stone, and then it answered. A single pulse of light, silent and sharp, lanced across the void. 1. That was all. When the light faded, half the Teyrak fleet was gone. Not disabled, not damaged, erased. Ships that had stood for centuries reduced to drifting ashes in less than a heartbeat. The rest fled without order. Their commander did not call again. His voice was never heard in the galaxy after that day. The warship did not pursue. It simply returned to its steady course as though nothing had happened, but everything had changed. On 1,000 worlds, beings watched the footage again and again. They saw how one human strike had ended what 50 warships could not withstand. They saw how silence had been broken, not with words but with action. And they felt the same truth. No one could stand against humanity. The next day, for the first time, the ship spoke. Across every channel, every frequency. The same voice echoed, calm, measured, human. We are the sons and daughters of Earth. We are humanity. We do not come as invaders. We do not come as slaves. We come as witnesses. Remember us, for we have returned. The words were not shouted. They were not threats, but they cut deeper than any weapon. Empires that once mocked humanity now shivered, because the voice carried something stronger than arrogance. It carried certainty. On the council world of Arath, the insectoid admiral whispered to his rival, "This is no warship. This is a warning. The humans are telling us they can end us whenever they wish." The reptilian lord bowed his head, scales trembling. "And the worst part," he said softly, "is that I believe them." Across the stars, silence returned. But this time, it was not the silence of waiting. It was the silence of fear, deep and unshakable. The first contact had been made, and now every alien in the galaxy understood. This was only the beginning. The galaxy could no longer deny it. Humanity had returned, and they had returned with strength beyond anything known. The silent warship had spoken once, and its single strike had destroyed a fleet. Now fear was everywhere. But fear alone was not enough for the proud rulers of the stars. Some empires believed the humans had shown all they could. Perhaps, they said, the warship carried a single weapon, powerful but limited. Perhaps it was a bluff. The galaxy had seen weapons of destruction before. Doomsday devices, star killers, engines of fire. They burned brightly, then failed. Maybe humanity's vessel was no different. It was a dangerous hope. The Zayari Combine, known for their arrogance, decided to test that hope. They gathered a coalition fleet, 200 ships from 5 species, each armed with their most advanced weapons. Massive carriers, destroyers with plasma cannons, dreadnoughts with armor thicker than mountains. This, they declared, would be the wall that stopped humanity's march. The fleet waited in the Nalos Rift, a stretch of space filled with ion storms and magnetic currents. The Zayari believed it was the perfect trap. No ship could cross without losing shields and sensors. They thought they had the advantage, but the humans did not turn away. The warship entered the rift with no hesitation. Alien captains watched in disbelief as their sensors lit up, showing the ship's outline, pushing through storms that should have torn any vessel apart. It did not slow. Its hull did not crack. The storms bent around it like rivers parting around a stone. The fleet opened fire. Beams of every color burned across the void. Missiles, torpedoes, energy lances, all weapons unleashed at once. The rift itself lit up like a second sun. For minutes, the sky was nothing but fire, and yet, when the flames cleared, the warship remained. Its shields glowed faintly, a pale shimmer across black steel. That was all. The alien weapons had done nothing. Then the humans answered. The warship unfolded panels along its hull. What emerged was not one weapon, but many. Rows of cannons the size of cities. Launchers that hummed with energy, older than the galaxy's current empires. From its side, drones slipped into the void, each one glowing like a fragment of a fallen star. The aliens tried to scatter, but it was too late. The first volley erupted. Not fire, not plasma, but something stranger. Invisible waves swept across the enemy fleet, and ships simply stopped. Engines went dead. Weapons fell silent. Whole warships drifted helplessly, stripped of power, as if their hearts had been torn out. Then came the second strike. The drones moved with impossible speed. slipping past armor and shields, attaching themselves to hulls. One by one, alien ships exploded into silent bursts of light, their remains pulled into the rift's storms. Within minutes, the fleet of 200 was gone. Some destroyed, some crippled, some left to drift forever in the storm. Only a handful escaped, and even they carried scars so deep their empires would never forget. The message was clear. The warship did not just carry a single weapon. It carried many, enough to break any fleet, any world, any empire. News spread faster than fire. On distant planets, civilians whispered in terror. On military worlds, soldiers questioned their commanders. Even the strongest leaders felt their thrones shake. In the palace of the Cathari Empire, the Empress sat in silence as her advisors shouted. "We must build stronger ships," one cried. "We must unite against them," another urged. But the Empress only whispered, "How do you fight what cannot be broken?" For the humans, the battle was nothing more than a demonstration. They did not chase the survivors. They did not destroy worlds. They moved on, drifting once more into deeper space, leaving behind ruins and questions. What did they want? Why had they returned? Some believed it was revenge. Others thought it was conquest. But the wisest among the galaxy understood the truth. The humans were proving a point. Each strike was not random. It was chosen. They were showing the galaxy that no weapon could hurt them, no fleet could match them, no alliance could save them. They were teaching the galaxy the meaning of power, and as fear spread, so too did rumors. Whispers claimed this warship was not even humanity's greatest weapon, but only a vanguard. If one ship could destroy hundreds, what could a fleet do? What could an empire of humans unleash? In hidden corners of space, resistance groups began to collapse. Pirates abandoned their ships. Entire worlds surrendered without being asked, choosing silence over the risk of being noticed. The galaxy had seen battles before, but this was no battle. This was a lesson, and the lesson was clear. Humanity had returned not as prey, not as servants, not as wanderers. They had returned as masters of war. The test of power was over. The galaxy now understood what it faced, and yet the most terrifying thought was not what the humans had already shown. It was the question that haunted every leader, every soldier, every citizen in the stars. If this is only what one ship can do, what is waiting behind it? The galaxy had seen the test of power, and it had broken their pride. 200 ships lost in minutes, countless lives erased in silence. And yet, the human warship moved on, slow and steady, like a shadow that could not be touched. For weeks, the galaxy waited. Every world, every ruler, every soldier lived in fear of the next strike. But it did not come. The humans remained silent, letting their presence speak louder than fire. The uncertainty was worse than destruction. Empires that had ruled for centuries found themselves kneeling to whispers. Then, one night across the stars, the silence ended. Every channel lit up. Every frequency, every beacon, every screen flickered with the same signal. On the smallest pirate outpost, on the richest empire world, in every corner of space, the same message appeared. A human stood before them. The figure was not armored, not crowned, not dressed like a conqueror. The man wore a simple, dark uniform, plain and sharp, with the insignia of United Earth shining faintly on his chest. His eyes were steady, his voice calm, carrying no anger, no arrogance. And yet it froze the galaxy. "I speak for humanity," the man began. The words echoed in thousands of tongues at once, translated instantly, leaving no room for confusion. "We were once among you. We walked these stars as explorers, as traders, as allies. But you did not see us as equals. You hunted us. You broke our colonies. You thought we would vanish." He paused, his gaze piercing through the transmission as if he stared directly at every listener. "You were wrong." The galaxy felt that weight like a storm, pressing down on their chests. The man continued, voice never rising, always steady. "For centuries we were silent. In the dark places of the void, we endured. We built, we remembered. And now we return, not as prey, not as servants, but as humanity." Behind him, the image shifted. The warship loomed in the background, its dark steel shining against the void. Alien watchers trembled, for they knew this was no trick. The ship was there waiting, vast and unbroken. "We do not come for conquest," the man said. "We do not seek slaves. We do not desire tribute. We come to remind you of a truth you tried to erase. The feed cut to images from the battles. Alien ships disintegrating under human fire. Fleets erased in silence. Entire armadas helpless before a single vessel. Each scene burned into the minds of all who watched. You will not forget humanity again. The message spread like wildfire. On military worlds, soldiers froze. On council planets, rulers argued in panic. On backwater colonies, civilians whispered in fear. The humans had spoken, not as enemies, not as tyrants, but as judges. The strangest thing was how calm the message was. There was no shouting, no threats, no demand for surrender. But that made it worse. It was not the rage of conquerors. It was the certainty of masters. The galaxy did not know how to answer. Some empires begged for peace, sending messages of apology to the humans, though no reply came. Others tried to pretend strength, telling their people that humanity was bluffing, but no one truly believed it. On the council world of Arath, leaders gathered once more. Their voices shook with fear. "They say they do not want war," one cried. "Then why destroy our fleets?" The Elari scholar, old and wise, shook her head. "It is not war. It is proof. The humans are showing us what will happen if we resist. They do not need to conquer. They need only to be remembered." A silence fell across the chamber. Every leader understood the truth they could not speak. Humanity was not asking permission to exist. They were commanding respect. Back aboard the warship, the human envoy stood alone. His voice carried across the void once more. "We will not strike unless struck. We will not enslave unless threatened. But remember this, humanity is not to be erased. We are not to be hunted. We are not to be mocked. For we have endured and we have returned. This galaxy will never forget our name again." The transmission ended. The stars returned to silence, but it was a new silence, heavier than before. It was not the silence of waiting. It was the silence of surrender. The galaxy understood. From the richest empires to the weakest colonies, one thought spread like a plague. Humanity did not need to conquer. They had already won, because fear itself was their greatest weapon. The human message had ended, but the galaxy was not the same anymore. For centuries, countless empires had fought for dominance. They had crushed rivals, enslaved worlds, and written their power into the stars. But now, all those victories felt hollow. Against humanity, they were nothing. The warship still drifted, moving at its steady pace, never rushing, never hiding. Yet its silence weighed heavier than any fleet. No one dared to fire again. No one dared to block its path. The very sight of the ship was enough to bring planets to their knees. And so a new age began, an age not of open war, but of quiet fear. On distant colonies, workers no longer asked who ruled them. They asked only one question: has the warship passed by yet? In the noble courts of ancient empires, rulers hid behind strong walls and pretended to be powerful. But their advisors knew better. They whispered that a single human ship had undone centuries of pride. The rumors grew wilder with each passing day. Some claimed this was only the first of many ships, that an entire human fleet was hidden in the dark, waiting to appear. Others said this warship was not even their strongest, that Earth had weapons older than the stars themselves. No one knew the truth. And that was what made the fear endless. The survivors of the Zayari fleet, the few captains who had lived through the storm, were broken. They spoke in whispers of how their weapons had turned useless, how their ships had died in silence. One captain, driven mad, tore his own claws from his hands and cried, "You cannot fight them. You cannot fight shadows." His words spread faster than his screams, carrying across his empire until even children repeated them. On the council world of Horatha, debates turned into silence. No leader wanted to speak against humanity now. Some suggested sending envoys of peace, others begged for alliances, But the truth was clear. No negotiation mattered. Humanity had not asked for talks. They had not asked for tribute. They had only asked to be remembered, and remembered they were. Across the stars, new rituals began. Soldiers whispered the human name before battle, hoping it would grant them strength. Traders carried human symbols, painted crudely on their ships, believing it would keep them safe. Even criminals prayed to the unseen humans, begging not to be noticed. The galaxy had not bowed to weapons. It had bowed to fear. Meanwhile, the warship never stopped. It crossed system after system, always silent, always patient. Sometimes it hovered over a planet for hours, casting its shadow across the surface. People would gather in terror, staring up at the dark outline in the sky, knowing their lives could end in an instant. Then, as suddenly as it came, it would leave, saying nothing, firing nothing, only leaving behind silence and trembling hearts. The strangest thing was how little the humans did. They did not destroy cities. They did not conquer worlds. They did not enslave species. But that was what made the fear even stronger. Because if one ship could do all this while doing almost nothing, what would happen if they ever decided to unleash their true power? The galaxy's historians began to mark the event with a new name. They called it the Day of Return. Not a battle, not a war, just a day. But it was enough to change everything. Generations later, alien children would grow up never knowing conquest, never knowing rebellion, but always knowing the story. They would sit by the glow of starfires and whisper, "When the humans came back, the galaxy learned fear." And the humans themselves, they remained silent. No one knew if the warship carried thousands of soldiers or only a single crew. No one knew if it was a messenger or an executioner. But it did not matter. Its very existence had rewritten the balance of power. Fear had become humanity's greatest weapon. A weapon sharper than blades, stronger than cannons, older than empires. The galaxy would never forget. And so the warship drifted on, into deeper space, into darker regions where no empire ruled. It left behind only shadows, silence, and one undeniable truth. Humanity had returned, and their name alone was enough to make the galaxy tremble.